My husband laughed in my face inside the bank lobby and told the manager I did not understand big money. 20 minutes later, that same manager froze every account he had tried to hide from me. Not one account. Not two. Every single one, connected to the loan, the shell company, the secret credit lines, and the business he had been running behind my back with my name attached to the risk. My husband, Adrian Cole, stood beside the marble counter in his gray suit, holding his phone like it was a weapon. His mother Patricia sat near the window with her handbag on her lap, watching me with the cold patience of a woman who had spent years teaching her son that wives were useful until they started asking questions. His new business partner, Cassandra Vale, stood beside him in a cream dress and gold earrings, smiling like she had already spent money that had not cleared. And me? I stood there in a simple navy blouse, holding a folder Adrian had mocked all morning. He said I was overreacting. He said I was embarrassing him. He said marriage required trust. Then, when the bank manager asked why I had requested a full account review, Adrian gave that little laugh. The one he used whenever he wanted a room to think I was silly. "Mr. Alvarez," Adrian said, shaking his head, "my wife doesn't know anything about money. She saw a few transfers and panicked." A few transfers. That was what he called it. Not the missing $280,000 from our joint savings. Not the home equity line he opened using a signature that looked like mine but was not. Not the business loan documents that listed me as guarantor without my consent. Not the payment to Cassandra's consulting company. Not the wire to a company called Bright Path Capital. Not the strange account opened in my maiden name. A few transfers. Mr. Alvarez looked at me. He was a calm man in his 50s, with silver-rimmed glasses and the kind of face that showed nothing until it needed to. He had been our private banking manager for 3 years, but I had never needed him the way I needed him that day. "Mrs. Cole," he said, "do you still want to proceed with the review?" Adrian cut in before I could answer. "Naomi, enough. Enough." That word had followed me through my marriage like a leash. Enough questions. Enough worrying. Enough spreadsheets. Enough suspicion. Enough making things difficult. Enough acting like you understand what men are building. I looked at Adrian, then at Cassandra, who still wore that small, expensive smile, then at Patricia, who finally spoke from her chair. "Naomi, sweetheart, don't turn your husband's ambition into a courtroom." Sweetheart. She only called me that when she wanted me quiet. I opened my folder and placed the first document on the manager's desk. It was a printed copy of a loan notice I had found in our mailbox, addressed to Adrian Cole and Naomi Bennett Cole. I had never seen it before. I placed the second page down, a transaction list, then the third, a signature page, then the fourth, a screenshot of Cassandra's company receiving funds from an account connected to our home. Adrian's face changed for half a second. Not enough for everyone. Enough for me. He had not expected me to bring paper. That was his mistake. People who underestimate women often forget we keep receipts. I looked back at Mr. Alvarez. "Yes," I said. "Proceed." Adrian stepped closer. "Naomi, I'm warning you." Mr. Alvarez lifted his eyes. "Mr. Cole, please step back." Adrian froze. The manager's voice stayed polite, but something inside it had closed. Adrian forced a smile. "This is ridiculous. We're clients here." "Yes," Mr. Alvarez said, "and for that reason, we will follow procedure carefully." Cassandra touched Adrian's arm. "Maybe we should speak privately." I looked at her. "No, you received private money. You can stay for the public questions." Her smile disappeared. "Good." Mr. Alvarez reviewed the documents quietly. The lobby around us felt too bright. A teller typed behind the counter. Someone laughed near the entrance. A coffee machine hissed. Life kept moving, as if mine had not just cracked open under fluorescent lights. Then Mr. Alvarez looked at one page longer than the rest. "The signature on this guarantee," he said. Mrs. Cole, did you sign this? No, Adrian said. She doesn't remember. We signed many documents during the refinancing. I turned slowly. Adrian. What? I would remember risking my home for your secret company. His jaw tightened. It is not secret. It is strategic. Cassandra looked away. Mr. Alvarez picked up the phone. Please ask compliance to join us in conference room 2. Adrian laughed again, but this time it came out thin. Compliance? Come on. Mr. Alvarez stood. Until this review is complete, I am placing temporary restrictions on the accounts connected to these transactions. Patricia stood too. What does that mean? It means, Mr. Alvarez said, looking at Adrian now, no further transfers, withdrawals, wires, or credit line draws will be allowed from the flagged accounts. Cassandra's face went pale. Adrian's mouth opened. You can't do that. Mr. Alvarez adjusted his glasses. I just did. For the first time in years, my husband looked at me without laughing. He looked afraid. And that was when I knew the truth was bigger than even I had found. Before I continue, tell me where you are watching from tonight. And if someone has ever treated your silence like ignorance, stay with this story. Because sometimes the woman they call clueless is the only one who knows which page the fraud begins on. I did not grow up around wealth. I grew up around carefulness. My mother could stretch a pot of stew 3 days without making anyone feel poor. My grandmother Ruth kept grocery envelopes in a drawer and wrote every expense in a small blue notebook. My father died when I was young, so I learned early that money was not just numbers. Money was safety. Rent paid on time. Lights staying on. School shoes before they split open. Medicine bought before sickness got worse. My grandmother used to sit me at the kitchen table with her ledger and say, Naomi, money is not evil. Confusion is what makes money dangerous. I loved that sentence. Confusion is what makes money dangerous. So I studied it. Not in a fancy way at first. Just by watching. Which bills came first? Which promises sounded nice but cost too much? Which relatives borrowed and never returned? Which men talked loudly about investment but could not explain interest? By the time I met Adrian, I knew more about budgeting than most grown people around me. But I was still young enough to confuse confidence with wisdom. Adrian Cole was charming from the beginning. He was the kind of man who made every plan sound bright. He could describe a business idea with so much fire that you almost forgot to ask whether he had customers. He could talk about growth, legacy, strategy, and opportunity, until ordinary caution sounded like fear. We met at a fundraising dinner for a local medical clinic. I was there because my company had donated software support. He was there because he said he was building a healthcare investment platform. He asked what I did. I told him I worked in financial operations for small medical businesses. He smiled. So you help doctors count money? I should have been offended. Instead, I laughed. No, I helped them stop losing it. He loved that. For the first few years, Adrian seemed to admire my mind. He asked me to review his budgets, asked what I thought of his proposals, asked me to explain cash flow projections. He said, Naomi, you make numbers feel calm. I thought that was love. Maybe part of it was, but sometimes people admire your skills while they need them, then resent those same skills when they want to hide. We married after 3 years. At first, our money life was organized. Separate business accounts, joint household account, shared savings, clear monthly budget, emergency fund, retirement plans, home loan documents. I built spreadsheets. Adrian joked about them, but followed them, mostly. Then his business dreams got bigger. The first business failed quietly, a medical equipment referral platform. He said the timing was wrong. The second business failed loudly, a clinic staffing app. He blamed the developers. The The third did not fail exactly, but it never became what he promised. He called it a long-term asset. I called it expensive hope. I supported him. I did. I paid more household expenses when his income dropped, reviewed contracts, connected him with people, helped restructure debts, sat through dinners where he pitched men who liked his confidence and ignored my questions. Whenever I pointed out risks, he said, "Naomi, you're thinking like an accountant." I would say, "That's why we still have a house." He did not laugh after a while. His mother, Patricia, made it worse. Patricia believed her son was destined for greatness, and anyone asking for details was delaying destiny. At Sunday dinner, she would say, "Adrian has always had vision." I would say nothing. Then she would add, "Some people cannot understand vision because they only see bills." That was for me. Always for me. Adrian would squeeze my knee under the table, not to defend me, but to warn me not to respond. I learned to smile. The marriage changed slowly, not overnight. That is what makes it dangerous. First, he stopped showing me every business document. Then he said I made him feel small when I asked too many questions. Then he moved meetings to times when I was working. Then he hired Cassandra Vale. At least, that was the word he used. Hired. Cassandra was a business growth consultant with glossy hair, polished photos, and the ability to speak in expensive nonsense. She told Adrian his brand needed courage. She told him investors follow energy. She told him wives often mistake protection for control. I knew she said that because I saw the message months later. At first, Cassandra acted sweet around me. "Naomi, Adrian says you're very good with little details," she said once at a dinner. Little details. I smiled. Yes, mortgages, taxes, debt ratios, tiny things. Her smile tightened. Adrian changed after Cassandra arrived. New suits, new watch, new phrases, financial acceleration, legacy scaling, capital confidence, masculine risk, the kind of language men use when they want bad decisions to sound spiritual. Then he started calling me fearful. "You grew up with scarcity, Naomi. I understand that." That sentence made me angry every time. Because I grew up with reality, not scarcity. Reality taught me that rent has a due date, whether your dreams feel abundant or not. I told him that once. He said, "This is why I can't build with you." I stared at him. "You built with me when you needed me to cover the bills." He slept in the guest room that night. For months, we moved around each other like furniture in a house nobody wanted to enter fully. Then the strange mail began. A bank notice about a credit line adjustment. A welcome packet from a lending platform I did not recognize. A thin envelope from the county recording office. I asked Adrian. He said, "It's routine." What is routine? Business financing paperwork. Why is my name on it? Because we're married. That answer did not sit right. Marriage does not automatically place your signature on a loan. I knew that. I asked to see the full documents. He said his assistant had them. He did not have an assistant. I checked our joint savings. The balance was lower than expected. Not empty, but wrong. Money had moved in pieces. 25,000, 40,000, 17,000, 52,000. Some transfers were labeled investment, some business development, some consulting, some reimbursement. I printed everything. Then I checked the home equity portal. That was when I found the line of credit. $400,000 approved against our home. 280,000 drawn. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, not crying, calculating. That is how fear first shows up in me. Numbers, dates, names, accounts. Then I found the signature page. My name, Naomi Bennett Cole. The signature looked close, but not close enough. My N was wrong. My B was wrong. The pen pressure looked different. The date was a Tuesday when I had been out of town at a conference in Chicago. I pulled up my flight receipt, hotel receipt, conference badge photo. Then I found the transfer to Cassandra's company, Vale Growth Advisory, $75,000, from funds drawn on our home. My stomach turned, not because of her alone. Because of the pattern. Adrian had not simply hidden money, he had used my name to do it. I called Grace first. Grace had been my best friend since college and had built a career in forensic accounting. She could smell financial foolishness through walls. When I told her what I found, she became quiet. "Naomi," she said, "do not confront him yet. I already asked him about some of it. Do not confront him again. Copy everything. Download statements, screenshot portals, preserve emails, check your credit report, call Vivian." Vivian Hart was my attorney. She was sharp, calm, and allergic to men who used marriage as a fog machine. When I sent her the documents, she replied with one sentence. "Come to my office now." At her office, she reviewed everything with Grace on speaker. "This signature is questionable," Vivian said. "It's not mine." "Good. Say that clearly and consistently. Did you authorize the home equity line?" "No." "Did you agree to guarantee any business loan?" "No." "Did you approve transfers to Cassandra's company?" "No." Grace said, "There may be more accounts." Vivian nodded. "There are always more accounts when men start calling theft strategy." We built a plan. First, bank review. Second, fraud alert on credit. Third, account restrictions. Fourth, document preservation. Fifth, legal notices. Sixth, if needed, emergency court action. Vivian wanted me to contact the bank privately, but Adrian found the printed statements in my office before the appointment. That led to the bank lobby scene. He insisted on coming. He said he wanted to clear up my confusion. Patricia came because Adrian called her. Cassandra came because she said some transfers involved her company, and she wanted transparency. Transparency. With earrings. That was how we ended up in conference room 2, with compliance officers reviewing papers while Adrian's confidence drained slowly from his face. Mr. Alvarez asked questions. Precise questions. When was the line of credit opened? Who submitted the application? Which email address received the approval notice? Was Naomi present for signing? Why was a copy of her license uploaded from Adrian's business computer? Why did the IP address match Adrian's office? Why were funds transferred immediately to Brightpath Capital and Vale Growth Advisory? Why did Cassandra's company invoice for strategic brand positioning the same week funds were drawn? Cassandra said, "I provided legitimate consulting services." Grace, who had arrived by then, looked at the invoice and said, "For $75,000, I hope the brand can walk on water." Cassandra glared. Vivian smiled. Adrian snapped, "Why is everyone acting like I'm a criminal?" Vivian looked at him. "Because the documents are making a strong opening argument." Patricia stood. "This is a family matter." Mr. Alvarez said, "Mrs. Cole's signature appears on bank documents she states she did not sign. That makes it a banking matter." Patricia looked offended. "My son would never forge his wife's name." I turned to her. "Then why is my signature on a document dated while I was in Chicago?" She opened her mouth, closed it. Adrian rubbed his face. "It was electronic authorization. Maybe the date is wrong." Vivian leaned forward. "Excellent. Then you will have no problem with a full forensic review." He looked at her like he hated her. Good. By the end of the meeting, the bank placed temporary freezes and escalated the issue. Wires were halted, remaining credit access stopped. The business account connected to Brightpath was flagged. Cassandra's incoming funds became part of the review. My credit profile was locked. Our joint account required dual approval for movement. Adrian walked out furious. "You have destroyed everything. he said outside the bank. I stood by my car, holding the folder. No, I found everything. Cassandra stepped beside him. Naomi, I think you are making this personal. I looked at her. You cashed a check from money tied to my home. She lifted her chin. I was paid by Adrian's company. Then Adrian's company can explain why it needed my forged signature. Her face paled again. Patricia said, Naomi, if you embarrass him publicly, you embarrass yourself. I laughed softly. That surprised her. No, Patricia, I married him. I didn't become his shredder. Adrian pointed at me. You don't know what you're doing. That sentence. After everything. After the folder. After the frozen accounts. After compliance. He still believed I was guessing. I stepped closer. Adrian, I know exactly what I'm doing. That's why the bank listened. I got in my car and left. That night, Adrian did not come home. He went to Patricia's house first, then to a hotel. I changed the locks anyway. Vivian told me to. Grace stayed with me that night, sleeping in the guest room with her laptop open like a guard dog made of spreadsheets. The next morning, the bank review widened. More accounts surfaced. A business account under Cole Strategic Holdings. A line of credit application listing me as marital guarantor. A vendor payment structure tied to Cassandra's company. A personal credit card I had never activated but somehow had charges from luxury hotels, flights, and restaurant meetings. And then the biggest one. A pending transfer of $150,000 scheduled for Friday. Destination: Vale Growth Advisory. Purpose: launch retainer. The freeze stopped it. That was why Cassandra looked so pale in the bank. Her next payment had died before arrival. Grace printed the transfer notice and placed it on my kitchen table. Congratulations, she said. You saved $150,000 before breakfast. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I cried, because saving money did not erase the fact that my husband had tried to drain it. The legal process began quickly. Vivian filed for emergency financial protections and separation of assets. The bank launched its own investigation. My credit reports showed several inquiries I had not authorized. We filed identity theft affidavits where appropriate, and formal disputes on accounts connected to my name. Adrian's lawyer tried to frame it as marital misunderstanding. Vivian nearly levitated. Misunderstanding, she said in court, is when spouses disagree about dinner plans. This is unauthorized credit, disputed signatures, concealed transfers, and a home equity line Mrs. Cole states she never approved. The judge ordered temporary restrictions, document production, and asset preservation. Adrian looked exhausted in court. Not sorry. Exhausted. There is a difference. He kept staring at me like I had betrayed him by refusing to be robbed. After the hearing, he approached me in the hallway. Vivian stepped between us. He looked over her shoulder. Naomi, please. I said nothing. We need to talk. Vivian said, You may speak through counsel. He ignored her. You froze my accounts. The bank froze flagged accounts. Because of you. Because of documents. His jaw tightened. You don't understand what was at stake. I looked at him. My home. He blinked. No, I mean the business. I laughed once. There it was. The whole marriage in one exchange. I said my home. He said the business. I walked away. Discovery revealed the full story. Adrian had been trying to build a luxury healthcare investment firm with Cassandra as brand strategist and silent equity partner. Bright Path Capital was supposed to be a vehicle for acquiring small clinics and turning them into wellness-forward medical experiences, whatever that meant. He needed capital. Real investors were cautious. Banks wanted guarantees. Cassandra wanted fees. So he used what was closest: our home, our savings. My name, my credit, my financial discipline. The thing he mocked became the thing he tried to borrow against. Messages between him and Cassandra were painful to read. Cassandra wrote, "Naomi will slow this down if you let her review everything. She doesn't think like a founder." Adrian replied, "She's good with household money but freezes around scale. I'll handle her later." Household money. I had managed multi-million-dollar budgets for clients, but in his mind, my skill became small the moment it threatened his secrecy. Another message from Cassandra. "Once the first acquisition closes, she'll be grateful you had vision. Some wives need results before they understand leadership." Vivian read that one aloud and said, "I wish delusion paid taxes." Grace was angrier than I was, at least outwardly. "She called you household money?" Grace said. "I want that on a mug." I smiled for the first time that day. "Don't you dare." She absolutely dared later. The mug said, "Household money froze your accounts." I kept it in my office. The bank investigation confirmed irregularities. Some signatures were disputed. Some electronic authorizations came from devices and locations tied to Adrian. Some notices had been redirected to an email account that looked like mine but was not my main account. Several transactions violated internal approval protocols. Mr. Alvarez called me personally. "Mrs. Cole, I want to apologize for the failure to detect these issues sooner. Thank you. We are cooperating fully with the legal process." "I appreciate that." He paused. "Your documentation made a difference." I looked at the folder on my desk. The folder Adrian had mocked. "Yes," I said. "It usually does." Cassandra tried to separate herself quickly. Her attorney claimed she believed all payments were legitimate. Then Vivian produced emails showing Cassandra discussing keeping Naomi out of the capital conversation. Cassandra returned $50,000 through a settlement channel before the case got worse for her. Not enough, but a start. Adrian's business collapsed before it opened. Brightpath froze. Investors backed away. His accounts remained restricted. His reputation suffered. Patricia called me every day for a week. I ignored her. Then she came to my gate. I spoke through the camera. "Naomi," she said, wearing sunglasses though it was cloudy, "this has gone too far." "No, Patricia. It went too far when your son used my name. He is under terrible stress. So am I. You are his wife." "That is not a financial permission slip." She flinched. "He was trying to build something for your future." "No. He was trying to build something with my future." Her mouth tightened. "You have become hard." "No, I have become audited." She did not understand that. I did not need her to. 2 months after the bank freeze, I filed for divorce. People asked if I was sure. Not Grace, not Vivian. Not Brianna, my younger sister, who had learned long ago that asking women if they were sure after betrayal often meant asking if they were willing to suffer longer for other people's comfort. Brianna came over the day after I filed and brought soup. "Do you want advice or gossip?" she asked. "Gossip. Mom said Patricia told Aunt Linda you're ruining Adrian's destiny." I laughed. "What did Aunt Linda say?" She said, "Then Destiny should have signed its own loan." I laughed so hard I cried. The divorce was ugly. Adrian fought first, then blamed Cassandra, then blamed pressure, then claimed I had always controlled money and made him feel desperate. In mediation, he said, "You never believed in me." I looked at him. "I believed in you long after your bank statements told me not to." He looked down. That landed. He said, "I made mistakes." Vivian leaned in. Plural is doing heavy work. He hated her. By the final settlement, the home was protected. My credit was restored. Unauthorized debts were separated and assigned through legal findings and negotiated recovery. Some money came back, some did not. Cassandra returned more under threat of litigation. The bank resolved certain losses under its processes. Adrian was left with debt, damaged credit, and fewer lies than he started with. The divorce decree gave me back my maiden name. Naomi Bennett. I signed it with a hand that did not shake. After everything ended, I sat alone in my kitchen with Grandma Ruth's old ledger open beside me. The blue notebook was worn now, pages soft. Ink faded, her old words still inside. Money is not evil. Confusion is what makes money dangerous. I whispered. I understand now. Then I cried. Not for Adrian only. For myself. For every time I let him call my caution fear. For every time I let Patricia call my questions disrespect. For every time I shrank my knowledge so his confidence could feel bigger. For every time I confused being dismissed with being difficult. I cried. Then I made tea. Then I opened a new spreadsheet. Not for survival this time. For rebuilding. I rebuilt differently. I kept the house, but changed everything inside. New locks, new accounts, new passwords, new banking relationship, new estate documents, new emergency contacts. New rule, nobody touches my money through emotion. Grace helped me create a financial safety workshop for women. At first, it was supposed to be a small session for friends and clients. Then it grew. We called it the Folder Project. Vivian hated the name at first. Too soft, she said. Then she saw the logo, a simple folder with a lock, and said, "Fine, but my session is called Signatures Are Not Decorations." The Folder Project helped women understand bank statements, credit reports, account access, loan guarantees, home equity lines, business debts, marital finances, and the red flags of financial abuse. We were careful with language. Not every mistake is abuse. Not every spouse who handles money is dishonest. But secrecy, forged signatures, hidden debt, pressure, threats, and mockery when you ask questions are not normal. Women came quietly at first. Then in groups. Some wealthy, some middle class, some broke, some married, some divorced, some engaged, some caring for aging parents. The stories differed, but the fear sounded similar. I feel stupid for not knowing. My husband says I'm bad with money. My brother handles everything. My father told me not to ask questions. My wife opened cards in my name. My mother uses my account. I signed because everyone was watching. I didn't know I could say no. At every first session, I held up a folder like the one I took to the bank. "This is not just paper," I said. "This is memory. This is protection. This is the part of you that refuses to be confused on purpose." Women cried. Some laughed. Many opened their first credit report that night. One woman found a loan she had not authorized. Another discovered her husband had used their home for business collateral. Another realized her brother had put her on a company document as guarantor. We helped them get legal advice. Bank support, safety planning when needed, financial education. I realized then that my pain had become a door. Not because pain must become useful to matter. It matters already. But if I could use mine to keep another woman from standing shocked in a bank lobby while a man laughed at her, I would. Adrian heard about the Folder Project through mutual friends. Of course. He sent one email. "Naomi, I see you're telling our story publicly. I hope you're being fair." I replied, "I am being documented." No further email came. Cassandra rebranded herself a year later. Her new bio said she helped women step into abundance after betrayal. Grace sent me a screenshot. I stared at it, then deleted it. Some people do not change. They only change captions. Patricia asked to meet 2 years after the divorce. I almost said no, then agreed. At Vivian's office. Some habits are healthy. Patricia arrived without sunglasses, without jewelry, without the performance of rich sadness. She sat across from me. "You look well," she said. "I am." She nodded. "I owe you an apology." "Yes." She swallowed. "For what specifically?" I asked. She closed her eyes like she had expected the question. "For telling you not to turn Adrian's ambition into a courtroom. For making you feel small when you asked questions. For teaching my son that vision excused irresponsibility. For assuming you were less of a wife because you understood money better than he did. For protecting his pride instead of your safety. That last one mattered." I nodded. "Thank you." She cried quietly. "I raised him to think admiration was love." I said nothing. She continued. "And you kept giving him truth. He hated it, because I never made him practice receiving it. That was more self-awareness than I expected." "I hear you," I said. She did not ask for a relationship. She did not ask me to forgive Adrian. She did not ask me to soften the story. She simply left. That was enough. Adrian's apology came later. Not in a grand way. Not with flowers. Not at my door. Through a letter sent to Vivian first. She read it before passing it to me. "It is not legally stupid," she said. "Emotionally, it may be useful." I read it alone. "Naomi, I told people you knew nothing about money because I could not stand that you knew enough to stop me. I called your caution fear because I was afraid. I used your name because I believed being your husband gave me access to the safety you built. I was wrong. I am sorry for the signatures, the accounts, the lies, the humiliation, and for letting my mother and Cassandra stand beside me while I made you look small in a room where you were the only person telling the truth. You did not ruin my life. You interrupted the lie I was using to ruin yours." Adrian. I read it once, then again, then cried. Not because I wanted him back. No, because part of me had needed him to name it. Not misunderstanding, not stress, not ambition. A lie. He had used a lie to try to ruin my life, and I had interrupted it. I did not respond. Some apologies are meant to be received, not continued. Years passed. The folder project became national. We partnered with community banks, legal clinics, women's shelters, business networks, and universities. We created simple guides for teenagers learning financial safety, newlyweds discussing money, women starting businesses, and older adults protecting assets from family pressure. I spoke at conferences. Not like a billionaire guru. Not like someone selling empowerment wrapped in gold. Like a woman who had once stood in a bank lobby while her husband laughed and said she knew nothing. I told women, do not wait until you are in crisis to learn the shape of your own money. Know every account with your name on it. Know every debt attached to your home. Know who has access. Know what you signed. Know what you refused to sign. Know the difference between trust and blindness. Trust should make questions safer, not forbidden. That line became our slogan. Trust should make questions safer. People wrote it down, printed it, framed it, sent it to daughters. One mother told me she made her son and daughter both attend our teen finance program because I refuse to raise a boy who thinks women's money is quiet money. I hugged her. My own family changed through the work too. Brianna became a financial nurse advocate, helping patients understand medical debt, billing errors, and insurance forms. She said watching my marriage collapse taught her that paperwork can be a form of care. Grace became famous in her own right after one of her workshops went viral. Her line, "If he says you're bad with money, ask why he needs your credit." Vivian pretended not to enjoy her popularity, then released a course called Paper Before Pressure. It sold out. As for me, I stayed single for a long time. Not because I hated men. Not because Adrian ruined love. Because I needed to learn what my own peace sounded like without someone calling it suspicion. Eventually, I dated again. Slowly. Carefully. The first man who asked me out after a conference was kind and funny, but when I said financial transparency mattered to me, he joked, "Wow, already auditing me?" I smiled and said no. Ending the interview, Grace was proud. Later I met Daniel. He was a school principal, widowed, patient, and very comfortable answering questions. On our third date, I told him the short version of my story. He listened, then said, "I'm sorry that happened. What do you need to feel safe when dating?" Not, "I'm not like him." Not, "You have trust issues." Not, "Don't punish me for another man." He asked what safety looked like. I nearly cried at the restaurant. We did not rush. When money conversations came, he brought his own documents. Not because I demanded. Because he said, "Clarity is respect." That sentence did more for romance than flowers ever could. Whether we marry one day or not, I do not know. I do know this. I will never again love someone who needs me confused. My husband thought I knew nothing about money, until the bank froze his accounts. But the real story is not that I proved I was smart. I had always been smart. The real story is that I stopped letting his arrogance make me quiet. I stopped letting his mother's judgment make me ashamed. I stopped letting Cassandra's polish make me doubt the paper in my hand. I stopped letting the word wife be used like a door he could walk through into my credit, my home, my savings, and my future. If you are listening and someone in your life controls the money while telling you not to worry, worry enough to learn. If someone says you ask too many questions, ask better ones. If someone says you do not understand big money, understand your own money first. If someone says trust means not checking, remember this. Trust is not the absence of records. Trust is what remains after records are clean. Check your accounts. Open your mail. Read your statements. Pull your credit report. Understand your mortgage. Know your debts. Ask what you are guaranteeing. Never sign a blank page. Never let anyone rush you because they are embarrassed. Never let love make you financially blind. And if you find something wrong, do not warn the person draining you before you protect yourself. Call the bank. Call the lawyer. Call the safe friend. Save the documents. Freeze what needs freezing. Cry after the accounts are secure. That is not cold. That is survival with a calendar. Today, I still keep the folder from that bank meeting. The pages are old now. The first loan notice, the transfer list, the signature page that was not mine, the screenshot of Cassandra's payment, the bank freeze notice. On the front, Grace placed a label as a joke. Big money, apparently. I kept it, because it reminds me that the woman Adrian mocked in the lobby did not need to shout to be powerful. She needed paper. She needed courage. She needed people who believed her. She needed to trust the part of herself he had spent years calling fear. My name is Naomi Bennett. My husband thought I knew nothing about money. Then the bank froze his accounts, the court saw the documents, the truth found the hidden doors, and the woman he called clueless became the one who taught thousands of other women how to protect themselves. And the next time anyone tells me I do not understand money, I smile, because I understand enough to know when it is missing.